Hello, 7th grade. Chapter 15, Study Guide Vocab. There's a lot of vocab words. Oh wait, no, there's only 20. Never mind. So let's get right into it. First off, we have William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror was a Duke of Normandy who claimed to be the true successor to the throne of England after the death of Edward II. All right, so William the Conqueror is the person who conquered Harold Godwin and the Anglo-Saxons and brought the Norman invasion into England. Okay, Otto the Great. Otto the Great was a German king who was crowned Holy Roman Emperor after the empire of Charlemagne collapsed. We didn't really talk much about Otto the Great, but yeah, he's a German king and he becomes Holy Roman Emperor. So he kind of continues what Charlemagne did by uniting, this time, the Germanic kingdoms, not the Franks, with the Catholic Church and the power of the Pope. Seljuk Turks. Seljuk Turks are Muslim invading forces who overthrew the somewhat peaceful, friendly caliphate in Jerusalem. And they started persecuting Christians and Jews very severely in Jerusalem. And so that's what started the Crusades. They also are known for conquering Constantinople. So they're the ones who used the gunpowder to knock down the walls of Constantinople. Pope Leo III. Pope Leo III crowned Charlemagne Holy Roman Emperor. So he and Charlemagne are basically responsible for establishing Christendom. Parliament. Parliament is what was created out of the English Council of Nobles from the Magna Carta. So Magna Carta led to the creation of Parliament, which is a legislative government body in England. So Parliament took away some of the power of the king because of Magna Carta. Edward the Confessor. Edward the Confessor was an Anglo king of England who also had significant Norman ties. He was a very popular king, but somewhat weak, and his failure to clearly establish William the Conqueror as his successor, William of Normandy as his successor, caused Harold Godwin and the King of Norway to both claim the throne, and then there was a bunch of war because of it. So remember, always nominate a successor and make it clear. Don't wait till you're on your deathbed to do it. All right, King John. So King John of England is the signee of Magna Carta. He was a very unpopular king of England because he severely taxed the nobles in order to try to fund his war in Normandy, which he always lost. He kept losing battles in Normandy. Right, so he was basically forced to sign Magna Carta and give up a lot of the power that the kings had. And then, of course, what did he do? A few years later, he completely ignored Magna Carta and pretended that it didn't exist. He's not a popular guy. Common law. Common law are laws that are made by courts, not by legislatures. So, for example, Parliament. If Parliament makes a law, that is not common law because Parliament is a legislature. But if a court, like a judge, decides a case and decides the case in a way that creates like a new law, that would be called common law. And so common law is laws that are basically made up by the courts. Magna Carta, of course, is one of the most important political documents in all of history. It was signed when King John was pressured by the Catholic Church and his nobles to give up some of his power. It established Parliament, basically. It limited the taxation power of the king. It said that the king had to follow the law, right? Kings are not allowed to break the law. It protected the church from taxation. So yeah, very, very important political document. Oh, and it established habeas corpus too. All right, Pope Gregory VII. So Gregory VII was, he started off as a monk named Hildebrand, and he was elected Pope in 1073, and he was a guy who basically believed that the Pope is like the ultimate political authority in all of Europe. And so he butted heads with the Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV. Remember, and then they had that big, like, lifetime-long dispute where he excommunicated Henry, and then Henry drove him away from his throne, and it was just a big mess. Concordat of Worms. This was an agreement reached by the Catholic Church and the Holy Roman Empire in response to the dispute between Pope Gregory VII and Henry IV, the Holy Roman Emperor. This agreement said that the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church alone, has the authority to appoint bishops, not kings and nobles, only the Catholic Church. But it also says that emperors and kings and nobles can give fiefdoms to members of the Catholic Church. Right? And remember, when you give someone a fiefdom, they swear loyalty to you. All right. Moors. Moors are a term that historians use to refer to the Muslims of Spain. Pope Urban II. Pope Urban II was the initiator of the First Crusade. Right? He's the guy who decided we got to do something about these Seljuk Turks in Jerusalem and Constantinople. So he organized and promoted the First Crusade, and he gave a lot of incentives to people to join up. Henry IV, of course, is the Holy Roman Emperor who clashed with Pope Gregory VII. Henry IV believed that as Holy Roman Emperor, he had political authority over Pope Gregory VII and the church and the bishops. He wanted to appoint his own bishops who were loyal to him. So he had this big famous dispute with Pope Gregory VII. You can review that if you want to. Maimonides. Maimonides is a Jewish philosopher of Moorish Spain from the region of Andalusia. I believe he was in Cordoba. Ferdinand and Isabella are a king and queen of the kingdoms of Spain, and their marriage united Spain and allowed them to drive Islam out of Spain permanently, basically. So they made Spain a Catholic country. They're also the ones who funded the expedition of Christopher Columbus, or at least supported it in some ways, to the New World. Habeas corpus. This is something that comes out of Magna Carta. It is a right that belongs to individuals accused of a crime. So if you are arrested, according to habeas corpus in Magna Carta, the jailer, the person who's in charge of prosecuting you, the king even, can't just keep you in prison forever without telling you why you're there, right? They can't execute you without giving you a trial, right? This is because you have the right of habeas corpus. So if you're arrested, what happens is the court will issue something called a writ of habeas corpus, which is a piece of paper that they send to the jailer, or the sheriff, or whoever's arrested you. And basically they have to fill it out and explain what crime you're accused of committing, when your trial's going to be, things like that. And they have to tell you. So you can't just be arrested for no reason. Right? I mean, you could be falsely accused, you could be innocent, but in the past it used to be the case that the king would just arrest his enemies, and they'd be like, what did I do? I didn't break any laws. And the king would say, I don't have to tell you, I just don't like you. Right? Well, after Magna Carta and habeas corpus, the king can't do that. He has to tell people what they did wrong. Norman conquest. This is the conquest waged by William the Conqueror against the Anglo-Saxons and Harold Godwin, who occupied the throne of England. The Norman Conquest, it's also called the Norman Invasion, brought Norman culture into England. It mixed the Anglo-Saxon language with the Norman language and created like the earliest form of English. Yeah, that's the Norman Conquest. The Inquisition. Inquisition refers to the church court system to try and prosecute and sometimes persecute heretics. Right? It was also used against Jews and Muslims in Spain as well. Reconquista. The Reconquista refers to the movement that swept over Spain during the Crusades, in which the northern kingdoms of Spain united as one Christian force, and they slowly drove out the Muslim forces from Toledo, and then Portugal broke off and became a Christian nation, and then they drove the Muslims out of Granada as well. So Reconquista refers to the reconquest of Spain, making it a Catholic nation. All right, that's it for your study guide vocab.